Howdy, I'm Darren Hibbs with the 10-Week Bible, and I wanted to share a brief thought with you today out of Genesis chapter 31. You know, a lot of times in our lives, it can be difficult for us to move on when the Lord is trying to get us to move. And a lot of times that takes some kind of external conflict to get us to actually start listening to Him, to do the thing that He's been trying to get us to do for a while. Let's read Genesis chapter 31, starting in verse 1. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father." And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." Now see, had it not been for this conflict with his father-in-law, Jacob might not have gone back to the land of Canaan, the land that God promised him. The very land that Jacob said to God when he left it, "Hey, if you'll just bring me back, I will serve you." The whole point, the whole time, was for God to bring him back, and Jacob wanted to come back. But had it not been for this conflict, Jacob wouldn't have returned. In fact, when we go on in the chapter, we find out that Jacob's going to tell Rachel, his wife, that actually sometime before he'd had a dream where an angel came up to him and said, "Listen, I've been with you. Go back to the land of your fathers right now." And Jacob didn't do it. And it took this external pressure. So many times in our lives, it takes that for us to start listening to the Lord. You know, there's so many times in my life, and I know countless of other people's lives, you hear the story of what made them move, leave that job, change cities, or whatever it is. And it's always some kind of external pressure is what starts the ball rolling. And then it's like they get clarity from God. Well, you know, we really felt peace to move this, or we really felt like the Lord was moving us to do this. And most of the time, if you know them, you kind of know a little of the backstory of how unhappy they were in their situation in the first place. Most people don't leave things that they're perfectly happy with. But sometimes that's the way it goes with God. Sometimes the Lord is actually speaking and we're not listening. And we don't obey. We don't do what He's told us. Other times, maybe He hasn't spoken, or maybe we're not listening, or who knows, and He actually uses that external pressure to kind of get us into that place where we're like, "God, what do we do?" And then He speaks, and then He's kind to us, and then He says, "Move on. It's time for you to go." So whenever you have those external pressures pushing you to make a change, don't discount that, because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, that's actually the Lord prodding you to move. Are you in a position to move right now? Do you feel like there's some external pressure that makes you want to leave? Sometimes that's our opportunity to buckle down, and the Lord wants us to really fight through some things. But other times, it's the Lord saying, "I want you to move on." And maybe that's the time for you to start listening to the Lord and ask Him, what is it time for you to do? If you're enjoying these little videos, and I encourage you to subscribe and hit the little bell icon to be notified, and I'd love for you to leave a comment or a thumbs up on this video. All right, I'm Darren Hibbs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.